Hey everyone, Brian here, welcoming you to your seventh gathering for this year's Bible study. Today we're summing up the history of salvation with a final experience of words spoken through the prophets. And today we're going to look at the book of the prophet Micah. So we take our big Bible and we swing it way open. As you can see, it's over halfway through the Bible, to the book of Micah, which is in the Old Testament. Micah is considered one of the 12 minor prophets. Minor doesn't mean he's less important or less interesting. It just means that his book is shorter as compared to some long ones that you may also be aware of. For example, Micah was a prophet in Judea, actually sort of right in and around Jerusalem, at the same time that Isaiah was prophesying. And you know, Isaiah's book is much longer and was probably written by more than one person. There was probably a school of Isaiah that carried people not only into that dreadful period in Jerusalem's history when the Babylonians came in and destroyed it, but afterwards, while they were in Babylon, and perhaps the school even continued when a chunk of the Jewish population came back. Micah is there right before, and he fits into the tradition of the prophets perfectly. So we're reading him for a couple of reasons. First of all, you get to read an entire book of the Bible. And if that sounds daunting, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right up to, sorry, I skipped a couple of pages there. 7 chapters. And that anybody can read, I think, and it's great to be able to sit down and read an entire book of the Bible. I think there's nothing better. Try reading, for example, sometimes Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. What I love about it is to see where that famous pasture, love is kind, love is patient, etc., that chapter 13, how it fits into the rest of the letter. It's fascinating. And you can see how he's been struggling, Paul in that sense, struggling to find a solution, a basic core solution for the problems that the people of Corinth have been facing, that early vulnerable Christian community. And finally he comes across it. It's about love, and off he goes. It's very exciting to see it in the middle of the letter. But here we are with Micah. He was prophesying, came from rural Judea, but came to the city because he shared the concern of so many others that Israel, the kingdom of Jerusalem and Judah, was straying from the core values of what it meant to be in covenant with Yahweh, and was simply living like the other nations lived, going for power and money and glory. And that the people of Israel were supposed to follow the commandments of Yahweh and live humbly and lovingly toward their neighbor, live with justice, live with care for the widow and the orphan, etc., etc. In a typical system of power, the people at the bottom constantly get forgotten. So it's interesting to us, I think, at a bunch of levels. First of all, to think about Micah in his own time and place, speaking as he watched looming empires encroaching upon Jerusalem and Judea, recognizing that they were also power hungry and aggrandizing, and would probably invade Jerusalem and Judea, just as former empires had invaded Israel and Samaria. And so we know that's true today. We're very savvy if we follow public news items or current events at all. We're aware of looming empires. One of the big differences for us is that we are one of those empires. from big, powerful, economically vibrant United States. Micah would have come from a place like Costa Rica or a smaller, more vulnerable country that's kind of aware that it has to play its role in a larger world. Of course, Costa Rica has what Judea did not have, which is a participation in the United Nations and a post-World War II view of how nations should interplay with each other. So if even we can understand in a world where we know we have to get along with each other, we have to make major military understandings. We cannot use the arsenals that we have, nuclear or biological weapons. Chemical weapons just can't be used. So we have to be very careful to keep a balance of power and keep the idea of peace moving. That did not exist for Micah. So if we can feel the pressure of great, powerful countries interacting, imagine what it must have been like in the time of Micah. Of course, many people then, just like now, remain very focused. It's all about Judea. It's all about what we're doing here. We're fine today. Why shouldn't we be fine tomorrow? And that's another attitude that's out there, and so we can recognize that in Micah as well. There's a lovely passage in Micah, and I look forward to you stumbling across it, that you'll recognize from the Gospel according to Matthew. It's Micah who predicts and is cited by the scholars in Jerusalem when the Magi arrive that the Messiah will be born in Bethlehem of Judea. So it's right here. It's charming for Christians to come across these beautiful passages in the Hebrew Scriptures that for many, many generations, beginning with Matthew himself, understand that the prophecies made in the Old Testament don't come true as in the sense of finally Micah's prophecies are coming true, but just resonated with early Christians and still resonate with us today. Micah's prophecies were all about the fall and collapse of both Jerusalem and Judea, and that did come to pass, perhaps even in his own lifetime. So dive in. And remember that what we're looking for is, we're doing a Bible study, and you're going to get a chance to study in a whole book and have a great conversation. Remember, at the hum at the background, that we're looking at the voice of the prophet, and Micah is just a great example of the voice of a prophet. Listen for what he's saying. Think about how it's similar to what David had to hear from Nathan in last time's session, the very first prophet to speak up to someone in power. Micah comes toward the end of the prophetic period when prophets had to stand up and speak for Yahweh against power. But see if you can uncover what's salvific about that, as well as your general conversation. And then we'll be ready to launch into the very last session. Thanks for listening. Have a great conversation, and God bless.